After the ordination in Switzerland, we had the best vacation in our lives. We all went down, took the train down to Rome, and we spent several days in Rome seeing the churches. Father Father Esposito, brought us around to the wonderful places, the basilicas, the Colosseum. I remember my dad so much wanted to see the Colosseum. He'd just been reading the book called The Martyrs of the Colosseum, remember? And so we take the metro, the subway, and we get out, and I remember Dad saying, "Oh, where's the Colosseum?" We turned around, it's right there. He just kind of almost lost his breath, you know, when we walked around and saw it. And it was a wonderful time. Those several days we walked everywhere to see these wonderful Catholic sites in Italy, in Rome. And it was the best vacation of our lives. You'll never forget that. You know, it was really good. And I think, though, that time, there were not quite the good shoes that you needed because all that walking. And I think it affected your feet for almost a year. Huh? We finally swelled back, you know. But it was nice. And I remember my dad, we went to a bank to exchange some money for some Italian lira in those days. And we had a pretty good rate, by the way. We got good money for that at that time, in 1983. And my dad walked up into the bank. He walked in line, and he goes up to the counter and says, "Si, signore." And my dad started asking for something, and then the guy said, "Oh, scusi." And the guy walked in the back and saw a friend of his and started talking. And it was 20 minutes. Whatever. And my dad said, "I can't believe it, the Italians are just like they say." Not in a hurry for anything. Anyway, so a lot of good memories with Mom, of course with Dad. And of course when I was younger in St. Mary's, my first assignment was St. Mary's, Kansas. And my two sisters were living there, Mary and Kathleen, Mrs. and Mrs. Kaiser. Both the Kaisers, right? And two husbands. And I remember those early days in St. Mary's. We had a great program for the young adults, the guys. We'd play baseball on certain days, and I had a softball league. The teens and the young kids would play, and then the men would come. We had great baseball games and softball games in Quadrant. And in those days, Father Thomas Aquinas was a little smaller. And I still have some pictures of those days when I was playing the baseball, and he's there sitting on my lap, little kid, little 2 years old. And he had blonde hair. If you're wondering, he didn't have blonde hair. And it covered it all the way over the top. So, and in those days, we didn't know what God's plans were, but to be able to visit the families, and God has blessed the families with vocations. That's a wonderful thing, so we thank God for that. And it's important, too, for the young boys and girls, for that matter, for Father Thomas Aquinas and others who are going to the service of God, you know, to come from that normalcy among other boys and girls, brothers and sisters and families and friends, so that when they become priests, they can relate to the young people, to the people that they're normal humans, as it were. They have the human nature. They understand the humanity of men, like Christ did, in order to help to understand the wounds of men, in order to help heal them and bring them to God. So it's important that for example, if sometimes it's happened that the husband and wife, they're talking, what should we do about little Billy? Or little, what's the name that no one has here? Is there a Joshua here? Okay, what should we do with Joshua? He's about 16, you know. He's horrible at sports. He's really dumb in school. You know, he's not really very handsome. I know. Why doesn't he become a priest? He should go into the monastery. Same thing can apply to a girl, right? Oh, she's not really pretty, her hair is this, and you know, maybe she should become a nun. Now, God does not work that way. So, I mean, God can call anybody. So even the handsome young men and the pretty girls may be called to the religious life. And that's your gift to God. If God calls you, you give yourself back to Him. Right? So, and then we thank God for the vocations, and we thank God for the parents of the children who have vocations. Because, for example, let's say in the 60s and the 70s, or the time of the changes, if all the families were very close and very strict in their upbringing, the Catholic upbringing for the boys and girls, and they talked about their faith a lot, the parents explained the doctrine to the children. Well, when the boys and girls got older, let's say the young man went to a seminary and the modernism was coming in. The boy would be in the class and he would hear something the professor said, and he would say, "That's not what Mom and Dad are teaching that the church taught." And right away he would call home and say, "Teaching this in the seminary." Well, that's liberal modernism. See, it wouldn't have happened in the church. If the boys and girls in the Catholic families were very well instructed in the faith, probably it could have been very greatly lessened the attack against the church.